Brian Waller, Chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals. We'll start by confirming that all of our remote members and participants are, and anyone anticipated on the agenda, are present and can hear and speak. So when I call your name, please respond that you can hear us. So Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans?
Yes.
Ms. Biswas?
Yes.
Mr. Berger?
Yes.
Katrina, we know we can hear you. All right. So this open meeting of the Grafton Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted both remotely and in person, consistent with the Legislative Acts of 2021, Chapter 20, Section 20, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. This meeting is convening via Zoom video conference and in person as posted on the meeting agenda, which can be found on the Town of Grafton website, or here if you need a copy. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. All participation within this meeting will be visible to others. Accordingly, please be aware that other people may be able to see you and that you should take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast can be captured by the recording of this meeting, and that recording may be published to be rebroadcast at a later date. This meeting will feature public comment. To request acknowledgement to speak, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom or approach the podium in the room. The meeting, for those that are remote, the meeting administrator will enable you to speak when it's your turn. If you're on the phone exclusively and not via Zoom, the AV staff will help us out and allow you to speak. Anyone that is going to speak, please just state your name and your address for the record. And as this is a hybrid meeting, each vote taken will be by a roll call vote. All right. So the first case this evening is case 884. I'll read the rules of order that will apply to all the cases that we're going to hear this evening. So the way we proceed this evening is that the clerk will read the petition, and then the petitioner will have the opportunity to present their case. The petitioner will have 15 minutes to present. The petitioner will present the required information, and all comments should be specific. Any opposition will also have 15 minutes to speak. These time limits may be extended only with the consent of the board. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or in opposition to the petition will then have an opportunity to do so. Letters received in favor of or in opposition to the petition will be read into the meeting record. If you wish to speak, as I said, state your name and address for the record. The board may ask questions from time to time. However, all conversations should be directed through the chair. After all the evidence is presented, the board will enter into discussion and render a decision. At any time during this hearing and prior to a decision being made by this board, the petitioner has the option to request that a petition be withdrawn without prejudice or continued until a later date, at which time the petitioner could provide additional information favorable to the petitioner. And the other members that are in the room, just state your names for the record.
Peter Adams.
Bill McCusker.
Thank you. All right, so start with case 884. Ms. Reed, could you read the petition?
Yes. Good evening. Legal notice, the Grafton Zoning Board of Appeals has received a petition from James Forkey for 147 Main Street in Grafton, Massachusetts, requesting that the board grant a special permit to allow the conversion of a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling located in a neighborhood business zoning district to a two-family dwelling from a single family. No expansion of building footprint is proposed or required for modification. This is in book 54882, page 384. The board will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, June 16th, 2022 at 7 p.m. to consider this request and/or take whatever action is necessary, including the granting of a finding, special permit, variance, or other necessary relief allowed under the zoning bylaw. This meeting will be a hybrid meeting conducted in person and remotely. In person is at the Grafton Memorial Center via Zoom conferencing through the link that was provided. Zoning Board of Appeals, Brian Waller, Chairman, Kay Reed Clerk, William Yeomans, Will McCusker, and Peter Adams, and Vitali Biswas.
All right. So at this time, I entertain a motion to open the public hearing for case number 884.
So moved.
Second.
Do a roll call vote. Ms. Reed, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans?
Yes.
Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
We'll appoint Mr. Adams for case 884 as a voting member. How do you vote?
Yes.
And chairman votes yes. Turn the floor over to the
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Donald O'Neill. I'm a lawyer in Worcester with an office at 688 Pleasant Street. Here this evening on behalf of James Forkey, who's the owner of the property at 147 Main Street, South Grafton. We have a request before you to modify or change a pre-existing non-conforming use, which in this case is a single-family dwelling, which is located at the address stated. And what we're seeking approval for is to add an additional unit to the building. The property itself has adequate access to the road. It has ample parking. It is, of course, in a neighborhood business district, which necessitates the need for the special permit. The property has a number of commercial uses around it or business uses around it. Presently, it's a location basically where we feel that the addition of an additional dwelling unit would not in any way have any negative effect on any of the surrounding properties. We feel that it's compatible with the surrounding properties. All of the work would take place inside the existing structure. No changes to the footprint or the structure itself from the exterior would be required. Again, we feel that the utilities that are on site are adequate for the property. There are no traffic or hazard issues that would be presented, with this proposed use. I think the driveway access is certainly, it's on a sort of a straight run in the road, pretty easy to get in and out of there. And as I say, if you look at the site plan that's provided, there's more than enough parking available. And as a request for a special permit requires a finding by the board specifically that what's being proposed is not substantially more detrimental than what currently exists. I don't really view what currently exists as being detrimental, but certainly the addition of an additional unit in the building as it stands would not in any way represent any detriment to anybody that I can appreciate. The request again would fit within the overall provisions of the zoning bylaw, I believe, which basically encouraged appropriate use of property. And in the neighborhood business district, it does talk about the The intent being for businesses and low and mid-density residential uses to coexist within the same area, and I think that's exactly what we have here. If you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions from the board?
I got a couple.
Sure, Peter.
Your client obtained this property in 2014.
That's correct.
Was it a single family or a two-family then?
It was a single family with, as I understand it, a in-law apartment.
Through planning board or just moved in?
I'm not sure, but that when he purchased it, basically it was already set up.
It was already set up, two
Yes.
kitchens, everything double?
That's right.
Yes.
In the main structure?
Mr. Forkey, can you just move the?
Yes, that's
phone
correct.
Just move the mic a little bit closer to you. They're very sensitive, so just so we can hear you.
So he didn't build it, in other words?
No.
It was already there?
That's correct. Yeah.
Was it rented at that time or was there an in-law? I mean, did it come with tenants?
No, it didn't come with tenants.
Okay. To access your parking, I see there's a right-of-way to the left of the house.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. According to the street listing, there's two people living there now in two different addresses, an A and a B.
Yeah, that's so. What happened was I bought the property in 2014. My disabled brother was living in the single unit originally. My wife and I, in 2017, I believe, we bought property in Upton, in 2016, he moved to North Carolina, so we started renting the single bedroom out with my understanding that it was a single family with an in-law, and that's what it still was. But the reality is, I believe when the property changed hands, the in-law permit belongs to the previous owner, so it defaults back to a single family, is my understanding. And so it is now listed as a single family, even though it presents out everything like a single family with an in-law or a two-family as it was and is being used now.
So it's kind of like you bought something, looked fine, now all of a sudden you got a mess on your hands.
A little bit.
Kind of. The only thing that bothers me about this, and there's apartments right across the street, so it's not like that this is just a total neighborhood business zone. I mean, there's apartments, there's houses, there's a house to his left, there's a house to his right. But we're turning a lot into an R20 lot, basically. This is what we're doing.
Well,
We're not turning it into, but in theory we are. We're allowing a duplex.
but isn't it already because it's a single family?
It's a single family with a support. Now, I don't know if the in-law apartment was just put in before he bought it, or did it go through planning board? That I don't know.
I would be surprised if it went through planning board, because if the residence, if a single family residence is not allowed in the zoning district, I can't imagine the planning board could give a permit for an accessory use for something that's not allowed.
Well, I mean, that house has been there forever.
Right, but I mean, if that use is not allowed, I can't imagine how the planning board could grant a permit for an in-law apartment, considering that use isn't
I
there.
kind of know what you're saying, but
But regardless,
Mr.
yeah,
Chair,
I mean, that's the only thing that bothers me, and I don't want to leave him in a bind either, but,
Was there ever a special permit granted?
To me, no.
Not to you, but to the prior.
I didn't find anything, but the previous owners owned this house for, I mean, like 50 years or 60. I mean, a long time.
But you said something terminated when you purchased it.
My understanding is the law defaults it back to a single
Yeah,
family.
so what happens is if the planning board issues a special permit for an in-law apartment, it goes with that owner. You build an in-law apartment in your house, you sell your house, it can no longer be an in-law. They have to come back before planning the new owners and get another special permit. So what probably happened, now, the assessors have it assessed as a single family. So
So was it just never recorded?
they might have just
Mr.
built it and never
Mr.
went to the
Chair.
planning.
Mr.
Berger.
Chair,
Mr. Berger?
I'm looking it up right now. If I'm not mistaken, I've had conversations with this owner before. And I don't think I issued him a cease and desist because he said he was gonna go this route, but nothing was permitted in that before. So what we're trying to do is make this young man whole, so he doesn't have to rip it all apart. So the planning board, let me get to it on screen. The planning board's never seen this, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm just trying to get him back to being whole again. Because we had this conversation a long time ago. And it was back in November 22, 21 that we had the conversation. All right.
Well,
So-
he's looking at it.
I have it. It's right here. So I have a zoning complaint on this address. And it's, a one family to a two. It was filed by some realtor. That's how the complaint started. And then I got in touch with this gentleman here and we're trying to find a solution to make him whole again. And this is the solution that we came up with is, yeah, you can do this because, and just like the zoning determination I gave the board, it's a single family in a zone where single families are not allowed. So under 3435, pre-existing non-conforming uses, which this is, can be changed, altered, and so on. And that's how they got in front of you. I just didn't want the conversation to keep on going, well, maybe the planning board this, and maybe they didn't record that. No, that's not what happened. What I gave you is what happened.
So is there any sort, how do they add the second address, the A and the B? Is there any?
They just go to the post office, and the post office doesn't care, and they'll do it. I'm gonna lower my hand.
Mr. McCusker?
Yeah, so, one question I have is around parking and, obviously you've got a big parking lot behind. Could you just give me an estimate of how many spaces are back there?
Yeah, so there's kind of four. The way they park facing the fence. I don't know if you can see, but there's like 4 or 5 cars that can fit facing the fence. They usually put 4 facing the fence, and then either 2 in the garage or 2 in front of the garage, depending.
So I'm gonna say you got 6 spaces,
Yeah,
including the garage.
including the garage, correct?
All right, and then, okay. The print here, references existing paved driveway, right-of-way recited in Worcester, I guess, Registry of Deeds, book, blah, blah, blah. So, that right-of-way is an easement,
Yes, it's
perpetuity?
a, correct.
okay?
And it's a, if you look at the, yeah, and the reference, it's book,
Yeah.
2510,
Okay.
so that's pretty old.
Yeah, there's not a copy of it here, but I'm asking you, have you seen the,
I spoke with the surveyor, and he did, locate the easement and then show it on the plan.
yeah, I guess I'm
Yeah.
wondering what the terms in the deed actually say. And here's where I'm headed.
Yeah.
Is it's nice that you have this parking back there, but if for some reason that right of way goes away, now we've just increased this to a 2-family that's potentially twice as many people parking on the road. Because they won't have access to the parking in the
Yeah.
back.
There's nothing that I'm aware of that anyway indicates that there's any any way that the easement would go away. It's something which
But-
runs with the land.
Yeah, you haven't actually seen it though.
I haven't actually seen it.
Yeah.
But I know that the surveyor looked at it, and I believe he would have told me if there was anything like that. And also, again, it goes back to this book 25, which is, it's gotta be like that's gotta be, I don't know, 1950
Long
or
time ago.
earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe I believe the property line runs literally right up the middle of the driveway.
Well, according to this drawing, the property line's at the corner of the house.
Yeah, it's more, well, kind of towards the middle after you get past the house, I think is maybe what he's saying, but
Okay, yeah.
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 But I don't think there's any indication in any way that, if that were an issue, then, yeah, there would be no access to the parking and back, but there's no real reason to believe that that's the case.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it's not
Yeah.
a case of where he has to pay some, rent each year to have access to it, or there's any other, constraints or anything like that on it. And I honestly don't know what could possibly happen there. But that's the one concern I have. The 6 spaces in the back I believe exceeds our requirements for parking. And, so that's good. And then, just to kind of follow up a little bit on Mr. Adams's points, I'm okay with this. It's a single family today, legally. It's a single family, and that's not an allowed use, and we want to extend it to a 2-family. The neighborhood is full of residences all over that section of Main Street. I think it's probably more residential than it is commercial in that area. So, I think it's very consistent. It's, as the law says, it is not more detrimental. So, I'm absolutely okay with making this change, this change in use. Just, I hope that, I don't know if we're all comfortable accepting the fact that the surveyor says this is an easement in perpetuity that, will never go away. Or if we should be asking to see a copy of that language.
Ms.
Mr.
Reed
Chairman?
or Ms. Biswas, I'm not sure who was first.
Yeah, I have a question. So, Mr. Forkey, is this going to be, so it's going to be a 2-family rental in both units?
That's correct.
Okay, and it's zoned it can be rented. There's no issues with that, Bob?
There's no issue with that.
Okay. All right.
My only question is with respect to traffic from, I guess, Main Street 122A. Are there any concerns about turning on and off from 122A? And if you can just speak to that for a quick second.
Yeah, so, excuse me, I've never had a problem pulling in or out. The current people living there are tough students. I've never had any complaints. There's never been an accident pulling in or out. There have been a lot of accidents at the intersection close to that, the Pleasant and Main Street intersection, but none in front of my property pulling in or out in the 8 or 9 years that I've owned it.
And we don't expect any increase in the number of cars going in and out, right?
No.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Yeomans, 1 second. There's no intention to do any sort of construction. This is just allowing essentially the pre-existing 2-family that existed at some point or was informally permitted or informally used as a 2-family.
That's correct. We're not looking to expand the building or tear it down and build a new 2-family or anything of that nature.
Mr. Yeomans.
That was my question. Are there any changes to the exterior of the building? Because the building itself, it's got the middle section, which appears to have been the original house, and then it has the wings on the side. Is there any intention to expand upward?
No, and I think if there were, then it would require a trip back to you for another special permit. But we have no intention of doing that, but I think that would be a sort of a safeguard that you would be in place, but that's not our intention at all.
And a further thought on Mr. McCusker's comments. I also would be more comfortable with this if I saw that the easement gives him the right to use that driveway, because, you know, it's one thing for the surveyor to say that he didn't seem to indicate there was a problem. I think that the board should see the document that supports the fact that that driveway is going to always be there, because we're expanding the use of it, actually, and there is no alternative to that. So I would like to see that document that supports that easement with this case.
Mr. Chairman, suggestion possibly, if you're open to it, might be to condition the special permit upon access, unrestricted access, over the right-of-way. I'm not sure how we would verify, but that could be a condition of approval, or is that something that you would perhaps want us to get a copy of and submit to you? And
I mean, my thoughts are, I think I would as well feel better about it, just understanding what that easement entails. I mean, we could continue this hearing to the next, and I mean, instead of voting tonight. And
If I can just provide a little bit more details around those concerns. So the driveway that there is an easement on, so this whole lot is actually paved from a commercial property through his property all the way to my property. It's all pavement through and through. So he was actually, while I was living there, wasn't even using that driveway. He was actually coming in through the commercial side because it was just more convenient for him. That was the way he was coming home from work, and so it was never a problem when I was living there. He's never expressed concerns over it. Now that doesn't mean that someone couldn't buy it and create a problem out of it. But there's also there on the other side of the house. I mean, this looks much smaller than you could actually fit a driveway in between on the other side of the house if you really had to, as a last resort to maintain off-street parking.
Mr. Chair.
Natalia, I think you were next.
Yeah, I just wanted to note that at least in that Don Levy parcel where the right of way is shown, at least in that deed, it does say that it is subject to certain reservations and restrictions. I'm going to keep looking into this, but yeah, I'll follow up. I think I spoke a little too soon. Hold on.
Mr. Berger?
Yeah, the only thing that I wanted to add to this conversation is that, let's say it's an in-law apartment, and an in-law apartment is substantially contained within the single-family dwelling. In order to make this a real two-family, the gentleman needs to pull a building permit, which has nothing to do with your decision. I just want to put it out there because it's going to need to upgrade his fire detection and his fire rating for unit separation. But that really has nothing to do with your decision, but I wanted the applicant to hear that again.
And we understood that, and understand that it would have to go through Mr. Berger, and he would inspect and make whatever changes that he felt were required. If you, I don't think there's anything with the easement, but we certainly could postpone to your next hearing, and we could bring it back and look at it, and it seems like, you know, that would probably make everyone feel more comfortable, and that's fine too. But we don't object to that.
Mr. McCusker.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, the reason I'm asking is I owned a piece of property that had a right-of-way on a neighbor's land. And it seems like that's straightforward, except when you actually read that right-of-way, it excluded certain things, right? In this case, it excluded driving livestock through the right-of-way. But the point is, it could exclude things, and for who knows, I mean, as you said, this goes way back when.
Yeah.
Maybe this actually predates cars, or predates everybody having cars, and maybe it actually says you have a right-of-way to access the rear land, but you're forbidden to drive cars on it, right? And maybe the neighbor who owns that land now doesn't even know it, doesn't care, but somebody could. So I think that's why it's important
Sure.
to see
Yep.
what exactly does it say, right? And make sure that we're not setting ourselves up here for a potential problem. I think it would make sense for us to get a copy of that, get a copy of the deed, get a copy of that specific easement, or, you know, whatever it is, just so we're sure that, you know, we do have adequate parking for what's being asked for here.
Okay.
And that could be done remotely. I mean, if the next meeting, you don't necessarily need to come in, and you could do it remotely, and because I think we're at the point where that's the only thing that's kind of an issue, you know, at this point, I think.
I got one more question too.
Yeah, Peter.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Oh. You mentioned parking for 6 cars. Is there 6 cars there now? Because, I mean, this whole place is only 1,381 square feet, so. Are you renting to 2, 4, 5 tough students?
Correct.
Okay.
So 6 cars, sure.
I mean, that's common. I've heard of that a lot.
My neighbor on that side has never complained about them. They've never complained about parking spaces.
I don't know if Matali has her hand up again.
I do, and I'm sorry. Do we know how wide this right-of-way is?
That's another thing, right? So what's it actually say the width of it is? I don't know.
Well, because if I'm looking at the correct page, book 2510, page 250, it looks like there's a 10-foot strip for the adjoining parcel, but I would want to confirm that. For the purposes of
Well, if you look, I'm gonna share my screen real quick. If I can get back in here. That's not where I was.
I do apologize. This is actually the first time I'm looking at the survey plan, but my understanding and the neighbor's understanding was actually that the property line is almost identical, like right in the center of the driveway and runs straight up. So, otherwise I would have brought the easement today.
Well, we're still, I think, where we were before, just in terms of, I can get a copy of the easement, I can check it out, and
So
could
here's-
report back to you.
If anybody wants to see, that's the picture of the driveway. And if it's, whoops, I went the wrong way. Sorry, guys. If it's 10 feet wide, I mean,
But it doesn't matter how
Yeah.
wide that pavement is.
No, I know.
That's meaningless. It's unfortunate that, you know, and I don't know if you have another copy or more detailed copy of this plan. It's unfortunate that didn't, you know, put in dimensions of the house to the property line. Because that might help give you some idea of just how wide how much land you have. I mean, it looks in this plan, it looks like, you know, it may be inches, but maybe it's a foot or two.
I don't think you could put a driveway on the other side of the house without either a variance or a special permit, because you're not gonna have enough room for a 10-foot,
Right. Absolutely.
green space.
Yep. Yeah, so I think we need to get that, and I think we need to get that. And I think it might help to know how far the property line really is off the house. It's unfortunate that this plan didn't include that. This was probably drawn, oh no, he just did this in April. And maybe you can get him to come back and put the dimensions, house to driveway on here. I bet he's got it. There's actually a tremendous lack of information on his plan as I'm really looking at it.
It says limited field survey was performed.
Okay, well, maybe that explains it. Brian, public.
Yeah, so at this time, I entertain a motion to continue the public hearing on case 884.
Well, wait, we should ask if there's anyone in
Oh.
the public that wants to say.
Is there any comment in favor or in opposition of?
Anyone on the phone or?
I
you
have
raised
one
hands,
person,
anybody?
I have one person on the phone, but I don't know what he's coming in for. The person on the phone, I just allowed you to talk. I need to unmute you. I don't know how he's not unmuting.
I think he's gonna ask us for the continuance. Doesn't he?
Yeah, you should. You should request it.
Allowed to talk. I don't know who you are on the phone with your phone number 508-839-4880. I can't unmute them though. It says ask to unmute. And it's not letting me unmute them. Bill, can you unmute the person on the phone? That's them.
They have to, okay.
So I don't know.
All right,
As far as I know, nobody's got their hand raised.
okay.
And there were no comments that I received, and the only two comments I received were from the Board of Health and the Fire Department, and
Treasurer.
the treasurer, that they were all paid up. Board of Health had nothing, and Fire had nothing. Oh, the other thing the Fire said was they had no questions or comments at this time. That was it.
So, I jumped the gun, but would you like to continue the hearing?
Yes, we would.
All right, so at this time, I'd entertain a motion to continue case 884 to our next meeting.
Do we have a date for that yet?
We have not picked a date, but to let you know, we have received another case in. A new case. It came in. Where is it? It just came in on the 17th, or it just came in, and the 65th day is August 17th.
July 28th.
Sorry, did you say July 28th?
Yeah.
Yeah, that should work for me.
The 28th works for me.
Good for me.
Good for you.
I'm gonna be at Elton John at Gillette Stadium, so I will not be available.
Do you want?
But 21st works for me, the following Thursday works, but no, that Thursday does not.
How about August 4th?
That works for me.
It works for me.
August 4th is good for me as well.
I'm fine.
Sally?
Is it gonna be mandatory in person?
No, it should be hybrid again.
Then it works for me. I should be able to make that. Yep.
Okay. All right, so.
All right, so I move, we continue case number 884 to August 4th at 7 PM.
Second.
So moved.
Do a roll call vote. Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans?
Yes,
Mr. McCusker?
Yes,
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. Case is continued to August 4th at 7 PM.
Katrina, could you include that in the file, because I will lose it.
Yep.
Set. Thank you very
See
much.
you on the 4th.
Thank you.
And if you could submit any of that information.
Yes.
You know, as
Yeah.
far in ahead of time as possible.
Absolutely.
You can just email it to me, or you can drop it off, whatever's easiest.
Good.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
So the next case is 885 9 Milbury Street. And for this case, we'll appoint Ms. Biswas as a voting member.
Okay.
ahead.
Good. I'm Charles Bresnahan, and I'm here representing my wife.
Oh, wait a
on-
minute, hold on.
Oh.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I move we open case number 885.
my mistake, sorry.
No,
Ms. Reed, can you read the
Oh,
petition?
that too.
We haven't done this in so long.
I finally have that shit together.
Grafton Zoning Board of Appeals has received a petition from Charles and Andrea Bresnahan for 9 Millbury Street in Grafton, Massachusetts, requesting that the board grant a special permit to allow the addition of an attached two-car garage with a mudroom on a pre-existing non-conforming structure. Book 63143, page 363. The board will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, June 6, 2022 at 7 p.m. As a hybrid meeting, either in person or via Zoom. Zoning Board of Appeals, Brian Waller, Chairman, Kay Reed, Clerk, William Yeomans, William McCusker, and Peter Adams, and Natalie Biswas, both alternates. Thank you.
All right, so this time I'd entertain a motion to open the public hearing on case number 885.
So moved.
second.
Second.
I can't, I'm sorry.
I think Kay said second.
We'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes.
Mr. McCusker,
Yes.
Ms. Biswas.
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. Turn it over to the petitioner.
hi, I'm Charles Bresnahan. I live at 9 Millbury Street, Grafton, and I'm here representing myself and my wife, again, to request the special permit for the addition of the attached two-car garage with the connector, including a mudroom on a pre-existing non-conforming structure, and also maintaining a single-family household. I've brought with me Chris Adcock, and he'll introduce himself, our architect, and we're ready to answer any questions you may have for us.
So, Chris Hadcock, 133 Worcester Street. I'm the architect for the project. Essentially, we're adding a 24-foot wide by 26-foot deep garage at the rear of the property. And
Chris, you can get up and stand
yeah,
at the
sure.
mic right there and show them on your
Okay.
drawings.
right here, let's see, with a little mudroom connector in the rear, and right here, there's an existing indent. So the existing house is like a federal style house, and it's got this, kind of main portion, like with a higher roof line, and then with the back portion here, it drops down. So the garage eave will match up with the rear portion of that existing structure. So the existing the new entranceway will just be one story. You can see that in the renderings here. Right here, and the connector piece will be 2 stories with like a lower pitch roof. The second floor would just be a workout area with the connector into the existing house. So we're seeking approval to move forward. We do have some setback issues, but they're we have 9 feet on the side and 10.9 in the back. The lot coverage is the lot size is 745 with about 113 feet of frontage. The style of the addition is going to be in to match the existing house style, and with we'll tone the trim down a little bit, but it's going to complement it. So I think that's pretty much it.
Any comments from the board?
Well, if you don't mind, I'll go.
Cusker.
So just trying to get to what makes this a pre-existing non-conforming Looks like it's 25 feet off the front, where 30 feet's required, right?
Yes.
And then even the frontage, is 113, 140 is required. And then I think you said something about the lot size. Is that on here somewhere?
It's right there.
Yeah, the frontage is 125.
Where's the lot size? 11,000.
Where are you seeing 125 for frontage? Oh, the
It's an
required.
R20, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So in an R20, it's 125 feet of frontage.
Oh, did I mess up on that? Sorry. I'll fix it. Sorry.
125, okay, thank you.
But it's still,
It's still
Yeah.
113. Yes.
Yeah, is the lot area is 11,745, okay, got it. Anything else that makes us non-conforming?
Sorry, and what's the area that's required for lot area?
20,000. The sides all look okay, the rear looks okay, for the so I don't think there's any doubt. Oh, well, okay, do we know when the structure was built?
Approximately
Mr.
1800.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Mr. Berger.
to Bill.
Oh,
Bill,
sorry.
did you see my zoning determination?
I better have, huh?
Yeah, please. So as my zoning determination says in the notes, as per the assessor's property card, structure year built 1800.
Got it, thank you.
And if I can keep on going for a second, as per submitted site plan by Jarvis Land Survey dated 11/16/2020, showing the existing structure located at 25 feet 1 inches from the front of the property line, which requires 30 feet from the front property line. As per item 2, in my opinion, as the zoning enforcement officer, this structure is considered a pre-existing non-conforming structure. Therefore, any change would need to comply with section 3435 as stated below.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. McCusker.
how many bedrooms, I'm sure I could find it on there, but hope you can just make it quick for me. How many bedrooms and bathrooms in it today?
We have 3 bedrooms, 3 bath.
And, how many in the future?
3 bedrooms, 3.5 bath. There will be a half bath included.
Okay. All right, and it's a single-family residence, and it's gonna continue to be a single-family residence, right?
Yes, it'll be our primary residence.
I don't have any other questions at this time.
Natalie.
Is our standard right now for determining whether to allow this substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming use? And so does that mean it's only related to what's non-conforming? If that question made sense.
I think this
Is
is
this
what
yeah, sorry,
we
go ahead.
had. Isn't this what we had last meeting or the meeting before?
Yeah, the George Hill Road one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where there was a potential, I think they asked for a variance, or both, a variance and a special permit. And I think the answer is, it's just a special permit. It doesn't, I think it can be any nonconformance. Once it's considered pre-existing non-conforming, it's not just that's whatever made it non-conforming before. I believe it's, I think anything's on the table, basically.
Okay. And is the 9-foot side setback near the back of the property consistent with zoning requirements?
No. So that.
No.
The requirement is 15 off the rear and 15 off the side. So I guess my question would be, you could do this smaller and stay within the setbacks, I believe, right?
At the, it's my understanding that possibly that accessory structures, a garage, that this is, can be granted 10-foot setback. So maybe that gets, is that maybe not the case here, or?
Actually, this is a question for Bob, I think. Is it considered an accessory structure if it's all contiguous?
I don't think so. Is Bob awake?
If you're asking me, the answer is no. It needs to be 15. That pause was to see if anybody else was going to answer it.
The question was to you.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No. The only time you get relief is for an accessory structure, but this is attached to it, so that would be no.
Maybe under the definitions, and not to argue, but maybe, sometimes, attached, accessory structures are attached, but.
So you're kind of getting back to Mitali's point. We can grant a special permit as long as the proposed use of structure is not more detrimental. And I think that, I think we could decide that, hey, building something just 9 feet off the property line is in fact more detrimental. We could make that determination if we wanted to. And, maybe there's, a reason, maybe there's a house right there or something like that's very close to the property line, and a neighbor speaks up and we determine actually it is more detrimental. I think we would have the flexibility to say no to this permit, because that being just 9 feet off, it makes it more detrimental. I think we have that flexibility. That's where we get to exercise and essentially kind of watch out for the fact that this is becoming closer to the property line than it used to be. That's the flexibility that we have as a board to determine, is this really more detrimental than what's there?
And before 86, the sidelines were 7 feet.
Sure. Yeah. I'm not saying at all that I think that this is more detrimental. I'm just saying that I think that if, in fact, if there was concern about the fact that we're building within the setbacks, or, we're doing things that are, more non-conforming, that's our ability. That's where we get to say this is or isn't a problem.
Mr. Yeomans.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see this as something that isn't more detrimental. When I think back to this particular area, it's like a New England village. Everything is tight. I don't think any of these structures meet the current setback requirements and square footage. I don't think any of them are met. I recall this house because I looked at it when it was first for sale, I think in 2014. And these people have the present owners, if they're the present owners, or someone rescued this house and invested a lot of sweat equity and construction in it, and made it a sound addition to the village concept of Grafton Center for many decades to come. And I think that what I've seen on this plan that's presented, it actually adds a finished look to this particular lot. And while it is only 9 feet off and it doesn't meet the side setback, I think it is quite an attractive addition to the village concept that we've been looking at in a multitude of cases over the past few years. So I would be in favor of this, unless there's some outstanding issue that comes up as you hear comments from neighbors.
So, any other comments from the board? Are there any public comments?
No public comments. The only comments I received were from, again, Board of Health, Fire, and the treasurer collector. And Board of Health had no comment. The fire department, the only comment was that the addition or modification that occurs after 2008 require all heat alarms added in the garage and or hardwired smoke detector system within the residence.
That'll be covered during the
Yep.
building permit.
And then treasure collector, our taxes and everything are up to date. So those are the only comments I received.
Do you wanna check with, the person on the phone to see if they've unmuted themselves?
They are gone.
Oh,
So we have no one on the phone?
Well, there's three people on the phone, Nancy Baconi, Todd Broder, who's the attorney for 50 Potter Hill, and Elena Destopoulos. I have no idea who she's, let me check. Elena, I'm not sure if you can unmute yourself, but are you here to speak on 9 Millbury Street or something else?
50 Potter Hill Road.
Okay, thank you. So, nobody.
All right. So if there's no further comments, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
so moved.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Do a roll call vote. Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes.
Ms. Bizwas,
Yes.
Mr. McCusker.
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. Special permit's granted.
No, that was just to close the public hearing.
What? Oh, sorry.
We can stop.
First time in 2 years we've been in a public meeting.
We got the vote first. I declare it granted.
Yeah. All right.
You want me to just go over findings real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, finding F1, structure was built approximately 1800. F2, the parcel is located R20 zoning district. F3, the R20 zone requires 125 feet of frontage. Finding 4, the lot has 113.2 feet of frontage. Finding 5, the R20 zone requires 20,000 square foot lot. Finding 6, the lot is 11,745 square feet. Finding 7, the R20 zone requires 30 feet front yard setback, and the structure is located 25.1 feet off the front yard setback. I should actually say off the front yard line, the front lot line. And based on findings 1 through 7, the structure, we define that the structure is a pre-existing non-conforming structure. I gotta renumber these because I screwed up here, 8, 9, 10. So then finding 8 is that the current use is a single-family residence and the proposed use is a single-family residence. That was finding 8. Finding 9, the current home is a 3-bedroom, 3-bath home, and the proposed home is a 3-bedroom, 3.5-bath home. Finding 10, the neighborhood consists primarily of residential uses. Based on findings 8 through 10, we find that the proposed addition is not more detrimental to the neighborhood. This is not in the water protection overlay district, right? I don't think so, not up
No.
there.
Too high.
Yeah, not up there. Okay, so all
Not
that
up on
goes
that
away.
hill.
I hope not, goodness. Really extended, so, that doesn't matter, so those are our findings.
Okay. So this time, entertain a motion to approve or allow the special permit for case number 885,
Yep.
9 Millbury Street.
Before we do that, I just wanna double check. This plot plan, that's what you're building? Cause
Yes.
what I'm gonna do is a motion to grant you special permit per exhibit A, and this is gonna be exhibit A.
Assuming you've got the same one we have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it looks like, is it 11/16/2020 date, does that sound correct? November 16th, 2020? I see that date on it. Yeah, November.
Yes,
16th.
yes, 11/16/2020.
Okay, so then,
And just a note on that too, you do see the 2 structures that will be removed upon approval.
Yep.
And there's a shed and a gazebo that we will get rid of once this is approved.
Yep.
So there'll be 2 structures gone.
so I think our motion is basically, the legal notice, to allow the addition of an attached 2-car garage and mudroom. We don't need the pre-existing non-conforming structure.
Okay,
Per exhibit A, I think is really all it is.
okay.
So that was my motion.
Before you leave, I just need you to sign this,
Yes.
the exhibit.
Yes.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. We'll take a roll call vote. Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes.
Ms. Bizwas,
Yes.
Mr. McCusker.
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. This time, it's actually granted. So, Trina will, you have to record.
So I have 14 days to write the decision and get them in to sign it. Once it's signed, it will be recorded with the town clerk. After that, there's a 20-day appeal period. On the 21st day, you come in, pick up the certificate of no appeal, take it to the Worcester County Registry of Deeds, get it filed, bring a filed copy back to me. At that point, you can hopefully get the permit. So I would talk to Mark.
Yes.
Get him to get everything together and get it submitted, because I know Bob's at least 3 weeks out for reviews.
Yes, ma'am.
So that way, when you give me the certificate of no appeal, hopefully we can push the button and you can get your building permit.
Thank
And I
you.
just need your signature on this. But I'll send you a letter with all that
Yes,
in
ma'am.
writing. So just
Where do you
right
want
up
it?
there, just initial
Okay.
it or sign it. Okay, that's all I need. Oh, that's mine, yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
You're welcome, have a good evening.
All right.
All right. The next case is number 886, 50 Potter Hill Road. Ms. Reed, read the petition.
The Grafton Zoning Board of Appeals has received a petition from Fletcher Tilton Attorneys at Law for Stephen and Georgette LeMay for 50 Potter Hill Road, requesting that the board grant a variance to allow a lot width of 118 feet where 140 feet is required. Book 52269, page 277. The board will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, June 16th, 2022 at 7 p.m. This meeting will be conducted as hybrid, in person, and remotely. Zoning Board of Appeals, Brian Waller, Chairman, Kay Reed, Clerk, William Yeomans, William McCusker, and Peter Adams, and Matali Biswas, alternates.
Hi, Elena Despotopoulos. I'm an attorney at Fletcher Tilton on behalf of the LeMays. The applicants are seeking a variance for relief of 22 feet. From the
Hold
lot
on,
width
hold
requirement.
Hold on 1 second. We have to open the public hearing. Do we have, so is it Mr. Brador?
Yes, I'm on the line as well. Elena is part of my team at Fletcher Tilton.
Okay. Is it, and is the petitioner here, or
They
just,
are not,
just you
but
on their behalf?
we did receive a letter from them appointing them to speak on their behalf.
Okay. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion to open the public hearing for case number 886,
So moved.
50 Potter Hill.
Second,
Motion made and seconded. Oh, I know what you're gonna ask, Mattel. So for this case, we'll appoint Peter Adams as a voting member. So motion made and seconded. We'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
yes,
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. McCusker.
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. Public hearing is opened. I'll turn it over to the petitioners.
Hi, Elena Despotopoulos at Fletcher Tilton on behalf of Stephen and Georgette LeMay. The applicants are seeking 22 feet of relief from the lot width requirement. The premises at 50 Potter Hill currently is 118 feet, and the requirement is 140 feet. By brief background, there was an A&R plan approved back in 1990 for 50 Potter Hill Road. And a building permit was issued in 1994. The single-family home has been on the premises since 1994. For whatever reason, at that time, lot width was not addressed. And so we're seeking the variance kind of as a curative relief to allow the lot to be conforming with the bylaw. There's no other kind of action or configuration of the lot width to allow the the applicant to achieve the required 140 feet of lot width. And so we're seeking the 22 feet of relief.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to present before we start to comment?
We're kind of this variance is in conjunction with getting the abutting property at 52 Potter Hill Road to be conforming as well. Currently, that lot is conforming with all dimensional requirements of the bylaw, but under the theory of infectious invalidity, because 50 Potter Hill Road is non-conforming, 52 is not as well. And so we're kind of just seeking to cure and have both lots conforming.
So, Bob, or anything else from the petitioner before we jump in?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. Bob, and Mr. Yeomans, I'll come to you next, but could you just give your succinct explanation that you explained to me earlier about infectious invalidity?
Sure. Let me pull up the map. Somebody's gonna have to give me control in a minute.
Go ahead, Bob.
I got it. I'm just, tell me when you can see it.
We can see it.
Okay. I'm not gonna go through the deeds. I just want to get right to the meat and potatoes. And here's the meat and potatoes right here. So this happened in the 90s. When the planning board does an A&R is approval not required. And there's usually a note on this A&R that says no zoning determination is determined when the planning board signs it. So as we all know, that you have 140 feet right here. I'll make this a little bit bigger. You have 140 feet right here, but when you go for your lot width, the building inspector back then was supposed to measure back whatever it is, which is 30 feet, and you only have 118 feet right here. So the error happened when the LeMays bought this in the 90s and they built their house. So the problem that I could have right now is if that house burns down, can the LeMays rebuild that house? I'm not going to answer that question right now because I don't know what's going to happen if that happens. So 50 cut a lot out here because this lot was hundreds of acres. So they split this lot and they made this. And then there's a huge parcel of land. And then a couple of years down the road, this got split. But because this lot is non-conforming because it doesn't meet our zoning, everything after that is now infected, even if it's a conforming lot, and that's the ruling of infectious invalidity. This lot made this lot sick. So these both are non-buildable. The only way to get this out of that situation is what the attorneys are requesting, a variance for the lot width. And once, if they do get that, then it clears the infectious invis up down the road. I had a hard time saying that. And are there any questions while I'm still sharing my screen?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. McCusker.
Yes, I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. Because lot 50, which lot is the LeMays?
52.
LeMays are 52?
Yeah, you
The
know
LeMays
what?
are 50.
Okay, I get confused on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so because lot 50 was improperly created, then the lot that it was created from is also considered to be non-conforming.
That's correct.
Regardless, it could be that lot could be the size of the state of Texas. Doesn't matter.
That's-
It's non-conforming now because a non-conforming lot was created from it.
That's absolutely correct.
That's ugly, but okay,
I know.
okay, all right.
I'll stop my share.
Bob, do you remember when the 30-foot setback was,
Yeah, it was May 12th, 1986. I think it was cloudy that day.
Mr. Yeomans.
Yes, I just have one question. The case before us is specifically addresses this lot. If we look favorably upon this, does it automatically correct the infected lot?
Oh, absolutely. That's why we're here.
Do they have to come in and apply separately
No.
for that lot? Okay.
No,
thank you.
it's clean. Once this lot is now, it could be considered conforming, then it goes away.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. McCusker.
So here's my problem with this request. If this request came to us without a house on the lot, would we be granting this variance? And I think the answer is no. Pretty sure the answer is no. Right? Or I should say, if they came to us with this proposed division of the land, subdivision, whatever you want to call it, the division of this land, right? So Mr. Eldridge comes to us, says, I'm going to spin off this lot exactly as I see it drawn, but in order to build a house there, I need to get a variance. I don't think we would grant it. Pretty sure we wouldn't. I'm pretty sure this board's history is pretty clear that we would not grant that variance. So if we're going to grant the variance now, which my gut tells me is the right thing to do, how do we protect ourselves from somebody else coming in with a very similar lot saying, hey, they got a variance, now I want mine? And I want to make sure that what we do, whether it's the findings and, the variance findings, are pretty explicit. Somehow I want to make sure that we protect ourselves from that exact situation. And I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. But that's for me to vote in the affirmative. I'm going to need that. Somehow we craft this decision and its related findings to be really clear that the only reason we're doing this is because of the situation we're in.
Ms. Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can't we just state that because there is a house already on this parcel, that's part of our findings?
Yeah, maybe.
We know it's there. We could just state the obvious, and then the next time somebody comes, we could say, well, there's not a house there, if that were to come up.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But yeah, that may be all it takes. But that's my concern. That's what I want to make sure we protect from.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong. And the fact that there's 140 feet of frontage isn't coincidental. They, I think, did this with the intention of having a conforming lot. And it was based on the reliance on the building inspector at the time. Is that correct, Bob?
Oh, there's no question about it.
So,
And the planning board.
The planning board would still give him an A&R today. They would give them an A&R. I talked to the planner about this. They would give them an A&R, and the only thing that they would put on there is no zoning determination
Oh, yeah,
was made.
Really?
yeah,
Yeah, they will.
yeah. Yeah, I've seen that.
Kind of creating
But
the problem.
Mr. Chair, while I'm speaking, it's not the same situation from 14 Rear. I think it was Apple Ridge. You did give them some relief, but they had like 10 acres back there to build one house. So it's not the same, but it's close.
No, but I'm not thinking of any particular one that's similar to this, but, you know, we could very easily see somebody else come in that says, you know, they've got a couple, or, you know, a 1 acre lot, a half acre lot, and it just so happens that I've only got 125 feet of frontage, or my front yard is only 125 feet wide, so, or whatever it is, you know, so
Mr. Chairman.
we just need to be careful of that.
Mr. Yeomans.
Yeah, I appreciate Mr. McCuskers' concern and comment, but after reading everything about this and looking at it, I think we're correcting a major mistake that was made by a previous building department official. And I think that the situation is that we're not creating an opportunity for someone to build a house. There are houses there now, and Mr. Berger's coverage of the infectious validity is clear. And I think that there could be a problem in selling this house as part of an estate. If, God forbid, they had an occurrence of a fire and they were looking to rebuild it. I look at this and I'm saying that I think that the present owners deserve a correction of the mistake that was made in 1990. And I don't think it's going to, I know it certainly wouldn't affect my thinking on anyone coming before us with a similar proposal that said, I want to create the buildable lot and we only have, I need relief from this 18 feet because it doesn't go, the frontage doesn't go the full effect of the lot. We're not creating financial opportunity. We're not creating a lot. We're not creating additional land. And there's no way to correct this. It's not like you can buy a piece from an adjoining parcel to correct this. So I think it's just a major mistake was made when this was divided. And I don't think the present owners should have to go forward with this burden in their mind relative to their property. So I hear what you're saying, Mr. McCusker, but I don't think that could be an argument that would convince this board that we should go along with the undersized lot. It's not creating opportunity. We're just fixing a big mistake, in my opinion.
Mr.
Thank
Chairman, if I can respond to that.
Mr. McCusker.
Yeah, so let's be clear. Let's be very clear that I am 100% in favor of granting this variance. Okay? But what I am very concerned about, and this town has experienced this in the last year on Church Street with the planning board, is some court coming to us on appeal and saying, you did it here and you didn't justify not doing it there, or vice versa. Okay, so it doesn't matter what any individual here thinks they may handle a future case. It's the court system that has looked back at planning board cases and can look back at our cases and decide that we're acting arbitrarily if we don't do it correctly. So that's my concern, is I want to make sure that this case doesn't infect some future case. That's my concern. Right? And if we just, if we're not careful, we could do that. We could have some court, you know, somebody come to us and we all say, well, that you don't have a house there, so we're not going to grant the variance. And they go to appeal it, and some court looks back at this case and says, well, you did it here. If we don't have the proper findings in place. Right? And the court's not necessarily going to look and see that, oh, well, you didn't have the findings in there, but we can see that it was a different situation. Because that's exactly what happened with the Church Street case. They went off what the planning board said, not necessarily the merits of the case, or the merits of the case says. So that's my point. And that's generally been my point on all of these, where I'm kind of a stickler for it, is I want to make sure that our cases, that our decisions stand up over time. So I just want to be clear on that.
Natalia, I think you were first.
Yeah, so I just had one question. So it looks, if I'm reading this plan correctly, it looks like there's also this like strip of land to the west side. Do we know, I'm assuming that we can't add on lot width from that side as well. Like, am I just reading this wrong, incorrectly? All this to be said, that I do agree with what Kay was saying. If we very clearly say that there's a house built existing on this parcel of land, and that's why we are correcting a mistake, then I think I would hope that would be sufficient to protect the board.
I see what you're
ongoing.
saying. Natalia. Can you meet the frontage requirement if it's not contiguous?
That side.
On each side, with some on each side, that totals 140.
Or whatever the width is supposed to be.
Yeah. I don't know.
And that was in Bob's note. It's contiguous, but I'll let Bob speak to it.
Oh, okay.
So is there a question for me?
I think it's just to confirm that the lot width has to be contiguous.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I have a diagram if you want me to bring it up. I don't know where I put it. I'm still looking for it.
Chairman?
Ms. Reed.
So if Bob says it has to be continuous, then I think we trust that. Without showing us that, we believe him.
I have it.
And also, I still think, to Bill's point, if this comes in front of us again, aren't we allowed to, talking about the Church Street and what happened, aren't we allowed to show our findings and why we came to this decision? I mean, those findings are important if a case comes, again, can't we say, well, this is why we came to, because the findings, there was a house already on this lot. And also I have another question, Bob. Is infectious invalidity, does that happen a lot in this type of, do we see that a lot? I've never heard that term, so, in my 8 years on the board.
It's out there.
Okay,
And there's court cases on it, so it's out there.
right.
Mr. Chair, would you like me to show you the diagram I made that shows why you need to have your lot width?
Sure.
Okay. And you do have two attorneys out there. Maybe they have a better finding. So this is what I gave the attorneys a while ago. This is what you have. This is your 140, this is your 118. And then here's your definitions of why you get what you get. So I can make my screen a little bit bigger. Lot width is, measured between the side lot lines. So, that's it, you're done, measured between the side lot lines. That's this lot line and that lot line from perpendicular from your front lot line. So that means you can't take that other side to grab your 140.
That's what I thought as well, but thank you for explaining the diagram. That's very helpful.
You're welcome.
So, do the petitioners have anything to add on the infectious invalidity?
No,
Mr. Chairman, this is Todd Broder. Thanks for all the thoughtful conversation. I've talked to Mr. Berger about this in the past, and he and I had a bit of a discussion on this in the earlier stages. The infectious invalidity concept it's definitely out there, as Bob suggested, but doing this for almost 20 years, this is the first case I've ever actually had where this was impactful on a piece of property that a client owned. But I do agree with the members, and I certainly understand Mr. McCusker's perspective. I mean, nobody wants to open the town up for liability or for future lawsuit. But I think you can do it with the findings. In this particular case, you've got an existing home that's been there for 20 plus years. You got an existing lot that's been there for 20 plus years. I don't know that you want to mention or suggest that there was an administrative error previously. I was trying to avoid that in my conversations with Mr. Berger because he being a town official, I would never want to throw him under the bus, in a particular case. So I'm not trying to do that to a former employee of the town either. But it is something you could mention if you felt like you needed to. But I think you're strong enough with the position on the existing home, being there, and it does make for a different case than a completely vacant parcel coming to you for the first time, looking for relief so that they can then go build their house. That's a very different set of facts just on those right there. I think that's plenty of protection. But if there's findings you want to work through or need us to work through with you, we're happy to do that.
Yeah, I mean, actually, if it would be helpful if you would submit proposed findings.
I think we probably did with our application, Mr. Chairman, in a memorandum.
There is
It's a narrative. It's really not findings.
Okay.
I'm trying to find it. Wait, I'm looking at the wrong case. Where'd this case go?
Here's the memorandum.
Yeah, I'll do it in a second. I mean, a hardship exists upon the land that requires applicants to apply for a variance. I mean, so you're just breaking down the three requirements. I mean, yeah, it's all narratives, as opposed to specific findings. I'll tell you what I've come up with for findings, but I've said this before, I wish the attorneys, when they're involved in these cases, would provide us legitimate findings. So what I came up with was a finding one, and for what it's worth, I am throwing the previous zoning enforcement officer under the bus.
I agree.
52 Potter Hill Road was created in nonconformity with approval of the zoning enforcement officer in 1990. Correct me if these dates are wrong, but I thought somebody said it was 1990. The nonconformity of 52 Potter Hill Road causes infectious invalidity from any other lots created subsequently. The finding three is the nonconformity was a result of errors made by the town of Grafton. Finding four, a home exists since 1990. Is that when it was built? It was 1990, or is it after that?
I'm gonna give you better dates.
94, I think.
Four.
That's correct.
They were granted a building permit and constructed in 1994.
All right, so a home exists since 1994 on, I said lot 52 here, but that's not it. It's
lot 50.
52 Potter Hill Road.
No, 50.
Oh, this whole thing is 50 Potter Hill?
Yeah, the whole thing's 50 Potter Hill, but it infects 52 because that's the
Yeah,
original lot.
that.
Okay,
So everywhere I said 52, I meant
meant 50. Yeah.
You know,
So, actually, to one of those findings though, is it only 50 and 52 that are infected? Or is it
no, Bob.
that entire plot of those 3 other lots?
I've only researched 50 and 52. If this cleans up the other conforming lot, then they're all cleaned up going down the hill.
Well, I mean, what Bob said, and I think is correct. I mean, this, we can see where this was, Wesley Alvarez sold this, right? He owned the whole hill.
Yeah.
And actually, it's this one here, 123 acres. So clearly the next lots, we know that there are small lots after this. So that whole 123 acres is infected. And if I understand correctly, everything created from that 123 acres is infected.
Is infected, that have houses built on them right now.
So I think it's pretty much everything else up the hill.
There's 8 or 10 houses
Yeah.
probably involved with this, but
Yeah, I think it's everything else up the hill is infected. That would be, if I'm understanding what Bob's saying correctly, so that's why I said, what did I write? Multiple, infectious invalidity for many other lots created subsequently, so I didn't just say how many, I just said many.
So what brought this up?
Are you asking me, Mr. Chair?
Well, in the,
There's a vacant lot. God, these numbers kill me. Let's say 50,
50.
right? 50 is vacant, 50 wants to sell, 50 called and said, is it a buildable lot? And then I looked into it.
okay.
And that's where we came up with, yeah, no, it's not a buildable lot because of 52.
Wow.
Oh God, did I say it wrong
You
again?
said it backwards, yes.
Yeah,
52 is not buildable because of 50.
all right.
but
But where's the house today? On 50?
On 50, it's in the back of 50.
Parcel A. Parcel A, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Well,
That's.
but if you were looking at a plan for the vacant lot, why even look at the house next door? I'm just curious on that.
When somebody asks, is this a buildable lot? Part of my documentation is give me the deeds. Give me the deeds on how that lot was created, and I'm gonna look at it. And then I looked, and then the next one that clicked was that other number. I'm not gonna say it because I'll just screw it up again.
So this one is 52, which there's nothing on.
Yeah, so that one, when they created that, they created it out of another piece. And that's where it's like, whoa, what happened here? And that's when you make your determination. Is it buildable? Is it not buildable? And then I had to make that determination. This is not a buildable lot because.
and on that picture, 27, 28, 29, 26, those all came out of Elbridge's land. So that's all out of that 123 acres. So those are all infected, if I understand the concept.
Bill, you understand the concept 100%.
Wow.
Matali.
And so I think, Bill, you're going towards this in your findings, but basically, if we correct it for 50, then every single other lot
Down here.
that came, yes, exactly. Every single other lot
Is
is
correct.
then okay to move forward, to sell, to build, whatever.
Or to rebuild.
Or rebuild, yes, okay. And this is the only non-conforming parcel that needs to be fixed.
Well, as I can see right now.
I think that's, I mean, we can say like, as of right now, I think that should go into our findings, which I think, Bill, you are going towards anyway, so.
Yeah, I've kind of stopped. I'm going towards Fletcher Tilton, writing the rest of them.
You were doing a great job.
So
Katrina, unshare again, please.
Okay, yep.
So the variance is being granted to the owners of 50.
Correct.
The existing home. But it's really on behalf of 52 Potter Hill Road.
It will benefit 52 Potter Hill Road as well, but there is a benefit to 50 Potter Hill Road to getting the variance granted, as has been discussed previously. This is just a really bizarre kind of circumstance. Mr. Adams kind of hit it right on the head. If you were looking at the A&R plan granted and recorded for 52 Potter Hill Road, if you went to look at that right now, you would have absolutely no reason to be as thorough as Mr. Berger was. And he was just doing his job. You wouldn't look anywhere else. This is something that I would tell you 99.99% of conveyancing attorneys would miss this all day long. And that's frankly what I do for a living, and I would have missed it. It's just that crazy from a factual perspective. But the grant of the variance fixes it it benefits 52 as well.
Isn't this the reason we buy title insurance? Seriously, I mean, I think this is exactly the reason that it drives me crazy when attorney says you gotta pay for it.
You've been on here how many years, and you've never seen one of these before?
No.
Have you ever run into this before, Bob?
Lordville, where I live.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't even think
it was a little bit different. But we use title insurance to fix it.
I'm not even sure title insurance would work for the owners of 52 because their parcel's vacant and nothing's been constructed. The owners of 50 may or may not have coverage for this particular issue. But anyway, that's probably a rabbit hole we don't need to go down.
Yep.
True.
All right, I did start writing these, and I certainly could have our secretary send them over to you folks. I would really love to have you guys write us some findings that we could look at a next meeting and kind of finalize this decision. I think, I think everyone is in agreement. We want to grant this. We just, I just want to make sure we do it right.
Yeah, I'm totally in agreement with that. Mr. Yeomans.
Yeah, and Bill, based on comments, I think it was a major mistake, and we're correcting a major mistake. There's nothing wrong with making a mistake. It's been identified, and we're taking the steps to correct it's not throwing someone under the bus, it's throwing them under the train. But there was a major mistake that was made, and we're taking action to make it whole, to correct the major mistake. So, I don't think there's a problem in highlighting that as a starting point, and we're taking corrective action to address and in granting this variance. Thank you.
Is there any further comment? Anyone on the board? And there's no one else?
No.
Were there any comments submitted?
Only fire, again, no comment. Board of Health, no comment. And treasure collector that they were paid up on their taxes. That's it.
So would you like to continue this to the next meeting?
Yes, so it sounds like you would like us to continue, and we'll request that continuation. In the meantime, we will work on findings and submit them to Katrina in the interim.
Yeah,
What you're looking for? Okay.
that's perfect.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Is there anyone online
No.
okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll see you back on August 4th.
Well,
Hold on.
Well,
okay.
yeah. Actually, so at this time, I'd entertain a motion to continue the public hearing.
I move we
So
continue
moved.
case 886 to August 4th at 7 p.m.
Second.
Motion made seconded. Do a roll call vote. Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. McCusker.
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. Case 886 is continued to August 4th.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And we'll keep an eye out for those findings.
Great.
So the next item on the agenda is selecting a member of the ZBA to be on the Economic Development Commission, based on a request from the Select Board. I'd actually like to have a discussion with the Select Board on this before we do that. Just to better understand, and I'd hoped to do it before tonight, but didn't, to better understand what the intent is of having a ZBA member on that. And I don't know if anyone has opinions on someone sitting on the Economic Development Commission.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Yeomans.
Thank you. I raised the question, when I saw this evolve during a very brief discussion at a select board meeting, I questioned the value of having a ZBA member on the Economic Development Commission. For two reasons. I think that we deal with issues, we deal with legal issues, we deal with the 40A, we deal with the 40B. It's not an opinion that we can offer and try to guide someone in a certain direction. I think a member on the EDC cannot speak on behalf of the ZBA as a board. So they could offer an opinion, perhaps, in directing a conversation away from something they're trying to do. When the opinion could be, well, that has to go before the full board of the ZBA, and depending on the laws that are applicable, it may pass and it may not pass. It's not something that is a judgmental thing. The other question I have, in the present environment, I think the ZBA is going to have a lot on its plate relative to the 40B discussions that are taking place. The LIP discussions, if they go forward, if they decide to bring them forward from the select board. So, I question the value of it. And I know it's been brought to my attention that a former member of the ZBA sat on the Economic Development Commission for a number of years. But I personally don't see the value to that board of having a ZBA member. And again, the ZBA members, I think we're going to be reasonably taxed in our meeting environment over the next year or two. Thank you.
And I don't think my opinion is as adverse to it as Mr. Yeomans, but I can also see this being basically a zoning expert is what they're looking for, and I just don't think that's the role of a member of this board to guide other entities. you know, welcome any other feedback, but my next step is to talk to the select board and just better understand what their intentions are and, you know, to see if this is what they're envisioning is really, you know, what if if a member of the ZBA is the right resource for what they're looking to do.
So, I basically agree with what Mr. Yeomans is saying. I think, I don't think that they're necessarily looking for a zoning expert. If that really is what they'd be after, I think that you're right. That would not necessarily be us. I do think maybe they're looking for just, you know, for the Economic Development Commission to have some amount of input and maybe some level setting with respect to some of the issues that may have to come before us, rather than spinning up a project that maybe, you know, is not going to, you know, that typically we wouldn't necessarily favor. You know, so I can kind of see where some of that input, where somebody may have some good input. What I had suggested was, you know, maybe, you know, to have a member of the ZBA participate as a non-voting member, just to kind of make them a little bit less invested in the EDC process, so that we're not seen as being biased should anything come to us. So that was kind of my suggestion, but I definitely share some of the same concerns. I think I can see what they were trying to do, but you know, the bottom line is I agree. Somebody should be having a conversation with the select board to really better understand what their expectations are, and see if it makes sense.
I think in terms of bias, I don't think, you know, it's overt bias. I think it's, you know, if they're someone's part of the discussions on a project and thinks it's a good idea, you know, and doesn't, you know, there's a different opinion on the zoning board, you know, I think they're naturally going to advocate for it, you know, and I think just inherently there's conflict there. But I'm not opposed to it either if, you know, if the expectations are, you know, in line with, you know, and if someone wants to do it, because it is a commitment. I'm not sure how often they meet.
Seems like they tend to meet when we did. Seems like Elias was constantly splitting between the two meetings.
Ms. Reed?
Is it something that, not to put Bob, throw him under the bus, but would it be something that Bob would be really good to be, because he's knows so much more about the zoning. And like you said, if somebody wants to do it, I mean, if they want to spend the time, I don't know, Bob, what do you think?
They don't want me there.
Oh.
They think I'm mean. So they don't want me there.
But you're the expert on all this stuff.
I know. That's why they don't want me there, because I tell them what's going on or what they can or can't do.
That's what they need to hear.
I know.
Is there someone that wants to do it? One of us? It feels like they have the knowledge to really give the right input to what they're looking for, or?
Well, and I think I can come back with some more information on,
Yeah.
you know, what that commitment is and what they're looking for.
See, a lot of times we're the board of last resorts. We're the forgiveness board. And other boards can't do what we can do. We don't have rules. We have very few rules. For a variance, we have 4 rules. And we can interpret them. And that's our saving grace. We can interpret them. But planning board has to go by all their regulations. They can grant waivers, but they have to have real good reasons. I mean, we do too, but And that's all I can think of. Maybe that's why they want us. We're independent thinkers. I'm not saying the other people aren't, but, and everyone that's mentioned on here, every board selectman, everybody else has their own opinion of things. They're only speaking their opinions. We would be only speaking our opinions if we're on it. We're not talking for the whole board. A selectman's representative would just be talking their opinion, not for the whole board. Same with planning board. That's the only thing I can think of why they would want us.
Is this a whole restructuring of the board? Is this a new thing to have a ZBA member and business owners? And I'm not familiar with what the makeup of the,
They're
ADC
adding people, and I don't know what brought it up.
Okay.
All right, so I'll come back with more information on that.
Sorry, can I just ask one question before we move on?
Sure.
In section 1, it says that the select board is establishing a commission, and it's the members include, and then it lists all of these different, I guess, groups or whatever you want to call us, boards. Is that who determined that? Did the select board determine?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
and they
All right,
asked,
that was my-
they asked for a, I don't know if you would call it a signee or a member to be appointed.
Sacrificial goat.
They want a representative from every board on the commission.
Peter, do you want to do it?
Oh, I didn't say. See, I'm only an alternate, so I can talk the talk, but I can't walk the walk.
Yes, you can.
All right, anyone else have anything further on that? All right. The next topic is zoning determinations. And Bob, I told you this earlier. I mean, the zoning determinations that you provided were immensely helpful, just in better understanding, what was before us tonight, and being able to formulate questions. And we weren't sitting here trying to brainstorm with the petitioner of how to solve their problem. Which I think at times we've kind of devolved into. So thank you for doing that. I don't know if, careful what you do well, because you're going to get more work out of it, but I don't know how we move forward without these going forward.
Mr. Chair, I have no problem issuing these the way I issued them today, and I issued them in the past. But if they want to petition your board, then they can petition your board without my input. So the only problem I have is when you say, well, we want to make this mandatory, but they don't need to make it mandatory. I will promise you in this board that I will do my best to keep these going forward. But a perfect example is Wyman Gordon. Wyman Gordon was only in the design phase when they came up in front of you for the height and the parking. So there was no application to go in front of Katrina or to go in front of building department. They just wanted to see, can we design the building and get a variance for parking and get a variance for height? So in those rare cases, I wouldn't have been giving you this. But because you only have several different types of cases that come up in front of you. They're going to try to overturn my decision. They're going to ask for a special permit, and they're going to ask for a variance. In this, how many more times are we going to get infectious invalidity? And I really didn't give you much on infectious invalidity. I gave you the definition, and I said, that's really what the problem is. But I want to share my screen just for 1 second, if I may, Mr. Chair?
Please.
This, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so this is really the form that I used to use, but I modified it because, you know, it used to say up here, the applicant who actually is requesting this. So it didn't work out, so I just redesigned the form, and now it's going to the Grafton Board of Appeals. I give you the number, you know, the case number. I give you all this information, what they're proposing to do. Again, this is 147. This is the current use, and this is their proposed use. And then you jump down in here, and you get that, and you get that. This is really the meat and potato that Mr. Bill, I don't think you saw this, but this is really what I'm giving you right now, which I do think is very helpful. So it's almost like your findings there of why it's, in my opinion, as the zoning enforcement officer, considered pre-existing non-conforming. And I'm spelling it out, you know, single family, two family, not allowed in the end. Then I give you this. And of course, every time I write anything, somebody can appeal it. So I always throw that in. This will be the typical form that I will give you when Katrina requests it from me, because her and I were in the same office, and she tells me what's coming up. And Bob, can you give us that zoning determination? 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna do that. But there are gonna be some rare occasions where they're just gonna want to go right to you. And on other occasions, it might be too complicated for me to really get into it. Like, I really didn't jump into the ins and outs of infectious invalidity because it's just so out there. But I think I gave you enough information for you to grasp what we were talking about.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, if we had come into that blind, you know, I can't imagine the discussions we would have.
We'd still be talking.
Yeah.
I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you think that the information I gave you ahead of time did help you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Excellent information.
Okay, well, then I will tell you that the cases that come up in front of Katrina, 9 out of 10 times you will be getting this particular form. And again, there's going to be some times where it's not going to happen, and maybe I should reach out to the chair, whoever the chair is, and talk to them and see what they want to do. Because maybe it could go to council and you'll get a memo from council.
Yep.
So how does that sound to the board? Is that a happy compromise?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
sounds good.
I think that sounds good. I mean, just having the issues kind of framed for us, and it really helps guide the discussion. And I don't know.
And, you know, whoever is writing the findings, you know, maybe that's me, you know, as long as, you know, now that I know that information's there, that'll make it that much quicker when writing them. A lot of that you can just pull right off your determination, and you don't have to go through the, you know, asking the, you know, the applicant and all that sort of thing as well. So, you know, it'll help now that I know that it's there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other comments on that topic?
Guys, on that note, I've had a long day. Everybody have a great night. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Bob.
Night, Bob.
That, Bob.
Good night.
Hey, Bob.
Good night, Bob.
All right. Bill, update on Adams Road.
Yeah, so, an update on Adams Road. I think everyone knows we were asked to provide a determination of completeness. That was back in March, I think, or April, or whenever. The board voted to deny that request. Subsequent to that, the developer has filed an appeal with the Housing Appeals Committee, and has also filed an appeal in land court because they claim that we filed the decision too late. I think it was a day or two later than it was supposed to be. So they're filing for a constructive approval in land court. It was supposed to be today, but it got pushed off a week, is the first conference of the attorneys at HAC. Dan Hill will be filing to represent us. And then the land court first meeting, I think, is sometime in July. So I think that's what's happened. So this past Tuesday, Brian and I met in executive session with the select board and town administrator. And I'm not going to go into the details of that because we are not in executive session right now. But I think it's suffice to say we just gave an overview. I gave an overview of the 20-year plus history of the project because not all members on the select board are aware of the history. And then, the current, what I just basically stated as far as the current actions on the applicant has placed against the town. And then kind of turned it over to Dan, and that's when we got into a discussion of strategy. And quite frankly, there really wasn't a whole lot of discussion of strategy. The first step is going to be filing, the appearances, and Dan says that the HAC has already said that they want to go to mediation, which is their standard first step. So I think once we get a point of mediation established, this board probably will need to meet in the executive session with Dan and get kind of caught up on strategy and approach and that sort of thing. But I just want to make sure everyone is aware that we did meet in executive session with the select board. We did go over the current status. We had a very high level discussion of strategy, but there'll be more to come once there's actually a date, et cetera, to go to mediation. And by the way, mediation is what we did with Prentice Place. And really the settlement for Prentice Place was probably 90% completed during that mediation session. And Dan's hope is that the whole Adams Road thing can be brought to closure during. Everyone's hope is that, who knows? Sometimes mediation works, sometimes it doesn't, but that'll be the first step. And I think that's about it. If there's a lot of urgent questions, we can, schedule a meeting and do an executive session before then, but there really wasn't much talked about. So that's why I didn't ask Brian to put an executive session on today's meeting. I don't think it's really necessary. There's not much happened.
No, and I would say it was kind of a recap of what has been in public meetings previously.
Yep.
All right. Do we have minutes?
We just have minutes, yep, if everybody's read the minutes.
Are we on to minutes?
Yep.
Yep.
If I may, on the minutes for March 24th, it's just a minor thing. On page 3, the second sentence, it's town council,
Oh.
not CIL. COUNSEL. That's all I found on that one. You want to go to the next one?
Well, wait a minute. Shouldn't we vote to accept these?
Yep, I gotta do these ones first. 324.
So is there a motion to accept the minutes from the 3/24 ZBA meeting?
As amended, so
So
moved.
move.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes.
we don't need to appoint someone, right?
No.
Mr. McCusker,
Yes.
chairman votes yes. Minutes are approved.
Mr. Chairman,
Was that the only one?
on
No, 428.
April 28th, on page 1, Katrina, on the case 883, the same point again on council.
Oh, Yep, okay,
And in the next to the last line of that paragraph, a comma where it reads regarding need for special permits and not a variance, comma or semicolon.
okay,
Just have a finding that the project is more detrimental.
okay,
On the second page, towards the bottom where it says board discussion and concerns, the next to last bullet, adding the word to the end of that sentence, to the lots being built upon, I think clearly.
okay,
And then on the next page, about a third of the way down where it's Attorney Hill comments, Attorney Borenstein will send but will send the information requested, but objects to this request. I think he's rejecting, he's objecting to the specific request about the title documents, at least in my opinion when I read it.
all right, could you repeat that again, Bill?
Yeah, on that, where it says, on the second bullet,
Yep,
it says needs clear title, Attorney Borenstein will send,
okay,
but objects, I would add the words to this request.
okay.
So back on page 2, did we already get it? Mr. Berger, at the very bottom, Mr. Berber
Oh,
is actually Mr. Berger.
got it.
Matali?
On 3, near the end, after, I guess, the second indented, it says Attorney Borenstein objects. This is a private dispute between the developer and the,
Oh,
I think we just want to say homeowners or
got
something
it.
like that.
Yep,
If there are no other comments in the minutes, I have one question that before we sign off for the night.
So so you need a motion to accept the meeting minutes of April 28th, 2022 as amended?
So moved.
Second,
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans?
yes.
Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
Mr. Ron votes yes. Those are accepted for April 28th. April 28th? Is that what we're looking?
yeah, April 28th.
All right, Matali.
Can I just ask, I guess, 2 questions? One, going forward, are Peter and I going to alternate on cases? And then my second question is, are we going to continue hybrid for at least the next couple of meetings?
So, on the new member or full member, so a full member is appointed by the select board. And I believe, I'm actually not sure what the process is.
So, all right, so if I may?
Please.
Yeah, so I had a conversation with the new select board chair about this and asked her what the intention was. Because actually next Tuesday, I'm up for reappointment. And, you know, there was enough time if they wanted to take it on to try and get somebody to fill Mary Ann's spot. And she said, no, they were not gonna do that, that they would get through the standard annual appointments and then they would advertise to fill Mary Ann's role. And our current alternates, if they want to be appointed, would need to apply for it. So that'll be a process that'll happen, I would imagine, you know, over the course of July and hopefully by August or so, they've appointed someone to fill Mary Ann's role. And then if it's one of you two, then, you know, I guess they would repeat the process to fill your role. I specifically said to her, I said, you know, they did this, appoint and then repeat the process to appoint to backfill the alternate. And at some point, they got a little bit more efficient and they would just advertise for an opening. The alternate would apply and then they would appoint the alternate. And then if somebody else from outside had applied, then they would appoint that person to the alternate. They do it all in one evening. They got efficient at one point. Apparently that's gone on. They're not
Yeah, that
necessarily
was
doing that.
quite a few years ago, because that happened to us, where they did it in the same meeting.
Yeah, so, but regardless, so I expect that sometime, after they do the annual appointments, that they'll advertise, and then if you want the full position, you gotta apply for it. That's what I was told.
So until that happens, though, if we know someone's not available for a meeting, I think we just have to really be conscious of that now because we don't have the bench strength.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it probably makes sense for, if we see a meeting, an application come in, and maybe, you need to be a little bit more, let us know sooner, and we know that, I gotta recuse myself from that.
Okay, yeah.
Then maybe just make sure everyone's aware of that, or certainly make sure that Brian's aware of it so that, he knows, well, now we're down to 5,
Okay,
and there's, no room for error.
yeah.
Or,
I mean,
or
this-
worse,
this
maybe
one-
all of a sudden we're down to 4 because 2 people got to recuse.
Yeah, I mean, this one literally just came in Monday.
Yeah. So we got time, and hopefully they appoint somebody by the time that.
I hope
And,
so.
and until then, we could actually do it on the notice, and you could just alternate. I think, couldn't we? Doesn't have to be done at
What?
the meeting. Couldn't it be on the notice that's published?
I don't think it matters. I don't think it's that big a deal to just appoint as we're doing it.
They are listed on the notice that we publish. And
Yeah,
then
all the
we-
members are
you
listed.
appoint-
I've got to
Yeah.
adjust everything now and take Mary Ann's
Right.
name out.
And then,
On everything.
then you as chair or the chair would appoint at the meeting. I have one question, Mr.
Well,
Chair.
I guess where I was headed though is it helpful to either of you to know that you're going to vote on a case ahead of time or not?
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
It doesn't matter to me either. It's
Okay.
more so just to get some clarity.
Okay.
And I have a question of, relative to the process. And I know, Bill, that you said that you have talked with the new chair of the select board. I think there's a great value to the town to appoint full voting members to the ZBA from the alternates who have spent, in some instances, many months, if not a year or longer, as alternates, understanding the issues that are dealt with by the ZBA. I question whether the town is going to benefit from opening up to new applicants and not looking closely at those that have served in the alternate capacity for a number of months. The alternates, as we all know, and I was an alternate for quite some time, I think Kay, you were, and the alternates served a very useful purpose in the ZBA, the matters before the board, running very efficiently. And in addition, they gain the experience of sitting through and being involved in the discussions of all of the cases that come before the ZBA. And I don't know if that, in the new person that's coming in would have that kind of experience. And I think, Matali, you're the exception. You're coming in with, as a lawyer, with some background and experience in zoning, and perhaps sitting on the other side of the desk. But you come in with some good understanding. And I would, and Peter, you have years of service on a variety of boards. And I would hate to think that either of you would not be considered before some unknown person on the outside. So in in your discussions, Mr. Chair, with the select board or with the chairman, you know, and Bill, you know, you've shared the experience, and I just think that it serves the town best when the alternate is considered first for the position of a full voting member. And I think enough said on that, but that's my point I wanted to make on that.
So just to let all you guys know also how it works, so we have the chairman, the vice chairman, clerk, member one, member two, alternate one, alternate two. Those expiration dates stay. So Mary Ann left. So if Peter went into Mary Ann's position, his expiration date changes to what Mary Ann's was. So I figured this out years ago when I messed up, but it was a whole convoluted thing. So all the expiration dates stay of when your term expires. So like Bill and Kay just expired and they just got reappointed. And then there's 3 that expire in 23 and 3, 4, 5, and then 2 that expire in 24. So if you move positions, you will now have that expiration date, not the one you had. Just to clarify for everybody that you may, like, if Bill left, he just renewed, so he's another 3-year term. But then if somebody moved into his who was going to expire next year, doesn't expire till Bill's term expires. I just wanted to let you guys know that.
Kay, did you get a letter for reappointment?
Somebody's else.
No, I did.
No,
Oh, you did?
Oh, you did. Okay, it was you. I knew there were 2 of you that expired. 'Cause
Yeah.
I had just looked at it. Sorry, but I
I
just
thought, I thought Bill Yeomans and I started the same time. I thought.
yeah. Well,
but
what
maybe not.
and then at one point what
I
happened?
said it before you
One point
Yeah.
what happened was
a little bit.
I didn't realize that. So when people got appointed, and Becca didn't realize it either. So then we had to like really fix everything and go back and backtrack everybody. So just to let everybody know, that's the way it is.
I thought alternates always got first pick for an
No.
opening.
It's illegal.
No,
You can't do
Okay.
that. You gotta
right,
open
I
it
didn't
up
know
to
that.
everybody.
Gotcha.
All the
I
reason why
agree
you should
with
be
what Bill's
considered.
saying, but the law won't let him do that.
Okay,
Really?
I didn't know that.
You know, I agree with what you're saying, Bill. That the select board has, you know, they've adopted a slightly new tack for it, and there's no guarantee that I'll be reappointed. You know, if other people have applied and they decide that they want to appoint somebody else instead of reappointing me, they can do that. That's their prerogative. But you know, I certainly do agree with what you're saying, and I think that, you know, generally speaking, they would agree as well. But you know, it's their choice. It's their appointment. They can appoint whoever they want.
If you're not reappointed, I'm going to organize a walkout.
We're gonna strike.
Well,
Back to Vitali's question about hybrid. Are we gonna continue to do hybrid?
oh,
I like hybrid. I love being able to sit in my house.
yeah, I'm all for it. I don't.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Is anyone opposed?
I mean, I'll just say it's really convenient for me to take a train home. My train was delayed. I got home. I was able to eat dinner and come log on my computer. It was fine. Although granted, I live so close that it's not like the worst thing either, but.
All right.
For what it's worth, I learned the other day that actually the select board has written a policy that says we have to do hybrid.
Oh.
Or either 100% remote or hybrid, or no, let me just rephrase. There has to be a remote option.
Oh.
Yeah, Peter's look is exactly how he's like,
There has
oh,
to
really?
be a remote.
There has to be a remote option.
I'll tell you tonight, though, the woman that spoke on,
the attorney.
Last case.
I had a hard time with
I
it.
had a hard time hearing.
So how do we handle that?
Yeah. Well, even just, you know, I'd hate to think that, you know.
And she's been the only person so far.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was somebody connected by phone, and I hate to think that they wanted to participate in the public hearing and couldn't. That's been my biggest fear since the very beginning.
Yeah.
Is that somebody we do public hearings. It's important that the public gets to speak. And if they, during a public hearing, they can't. So that's been my fear. But yeah, I actually, again, it was the select board chair who said something, and I actually questioned her offline about it, and she sent me the policy, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. It was news to me.
Is the only camera the one that's facing the board, or is there a way to have a camera point to the folks that are presenting and or the stuff that they're presenting?
Yeah, because we couldn't see what he had up.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay,
he can spin them.
so that's Bill. Bill would have had to have spun
Yeah.
them. Sorry, my battery died in my computer. That's why I'm off.
Oh,
I didn't bring my power cord. I thought it was charged enough, so.
That's interesting. I thought Bill would have been doing that actually. So we just had the one camera going.
Yeah. I mean, not a big deal, but yeah, I was thinking, yeah, maybe it's
Well,
something
if
we
we're
should
gonna
be able to
if we're gonna
see.
have people in here presenting, we've got to be able to show it.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
And Bill, I thought that even when we were all there in person, people calling in, how's that any different than people calling in if we're all sitting there
No,
versus?
we never had a call-in option.
We never had a call in
We
option
didn't?
before.
No.
I thought we did.
No.
Everybody had to come in.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. My memory is not so great. Okay.
Can
I
I?
think we're confusing that with, there was an opportunity for a board member to participate by phone
Right.
for a period of
Oh,
time.
okay.
That was
Got you.
what it was.
All right.
I'm kind of curious. I think it's an important point if we're not showing what the applicants are showing. And can I call Bill out of the booth and ask?
Bill Rubberdo, are you in there?
He is. He's on his way out.
Want me- I can-
Okay, so the question.
Well, I mean, if somebody's talking like you are right now.
Right.
Or more importantly, when he was showing something on an easel, are you able to put that on the camera? And show it?
That's the only problem. We have only one camera that can shoot the whole room. Usually, if we have plans being shown or anything, usually you can punch it through on a computer. That's how they've been doing it.
So with the Zoom meetings, you only have one camera that you can show
That's
through
it.
Zoom.
Just one main shot, just shows the whole table, and then anything else needs to be punched up by Katrina, or as you can see, Bob Berger shared. The old paper is kind of going the way of the dodo, so.
Yeah, okay.
So, when you have people come on down, just make sure they have something on computer, which they should. And
Or I
and then
can show it 'cause I have
everyone can
copies of
see,
everything.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, you can't switch from,
No, we only have one main camera that shows the whole board.
For Zoom.
for Zoom.
For Zoom, yes. At home, people are seeing everything, on regular broadcast.
So if they did away with Zoom, then we could go back to the old way of you move the cameras around.
Yep, exactly. Well, sort of, yeah.
Well, no, it sounds like you're actually doing that. So if anybody is watching at home tonight,
Yes.
they probably did see that.
Exactly. If they're watching at home on their television,
television.
our broadcast, they're seeing multiple camera shots, they're seeing everything. If they're on Zoom like the panel is, they only see the one shot. And
And so right now,
Okay.
they're like
So
seeing
we
the
should
back
keep
of
the
your head, the side of
TV
your
on
head.
then?
I'm sorry.
What?
Sorry, so then we should have the TV on to see, when you say
Probably.
broadcast.
Sure.
Yeah, if you're close to your TV, put your TV on channel.
No, don't do that.
no, my-
I've done that.
Never mind.
They're way out of sync.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right, they
3
are
seconds
way
out of sync.
There's a delay, and you won't hear anything.
Don't
That is
do
right.
that.
But the main concern from them was they want to make sure to see
Yeah.
documents and stuff like that, which are normally shared by anybody
So I would-
sitting on the panel.
So I would need to pull up what I have.
Yeah,
If they're
Yeah.
gonna bring it in person. Got it.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. All right.
Screen
Thank you,
share.
everybody.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
All right.
Thank you for indulging my questions, everyone. Sorry to keep you a little bit later.
I think that was an awesome question because you're sitting here, you don't realize it. We don't realize what you guys are seeing. That's
What we're
great.
not seeing.
Or not seeing, yeah.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Yes. Second.
All right. Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes.
Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
Chairman votes yes.
Good night, everyone.
Happy 4th,
August
everyone.
4th.
Yes.
Have a great
Happy
night.
Father's Day.
Thank you.